Why should we do evangelism?
Every believer is called to evangelism, and every believer is gifted with evangelism.
All right, so here's why I share the gospel. Jesus is the most important person in my life. If I don't talk about him to people, if I don't talk about him at the gym that I work out at, if I don't talk about him to the cashier that I see all the time at Kroger, if I don't talk about him to my neighbors, family members, I'm clearly ashamed of him.
Inside of us, the ministry of the Holy Spirit compels believers to share what it is Christ is doing in their life. If you have a true relationship with Christ, if you are walking in step with the Spirit, you're going to be pushed and compelled to share Christ with other people.
If I did that to my wife, it would break her heart. If I pretended I didn't know her in public, or people asked me if I was married, and I took off my ring and slid it in my back pocket, and she found out, that would break her heart. Well, God sees everything. If I'm not willing to talk about Jesus to my neighbors, if I'm not wanting to, as I'm lifting weights, think about the person across the gym and think, how can I share Christ with this person? I'm ashamed of Jesus. I don't ever want to be ashamed of him. And he said, if you're ashamed of me and my words, I'll be ashamed of you when I come.
9 years ago, I was compelled by the gospel at our Bethesda Missions Conference. I went forward at one of the services and in effect was saying to the Lord, I'm available for vocational missions, even if it means leaving my ministry at Bethesda. Sadly, I knew very few people on my street. Like missionaries on foreign soil, we began the process of getting to know our neighbors so we could reach them with the gospel.
Well, evangelism, we try to complicate it, but it's actually really simple. It's just sharing the good news about Jesus Christ in our everyday life.
I believe every follower of Jesus Christ has their own personal story of how the gospel has changed their life, how Jesus Christ invaded their heart and brought them from death to life through the gospel, through what Jesus Christ has done for us on the cross. And so the easiest way I find for people to begin sharing about the gospel is sharing their own personal story of how Jesus Christ changed them, and then getting to ask others, what do you think about Jesus?
It can be just as easy as sharing a word or two while you're pumping your gas or standing in line at the store, or it could be a deeper conversation like over the fence with your neighbors or while sitting at one of your kids' ball games.
Over the years, God used prayer walks, used our monthly prayer care meetings, block parties, used contacts with our neighbors just across the fence to help us to build relationships and to move from merely being a stranger or an acquaintance to real intimate relationships with those people that we live near.
I like to frequent places, be a regular somewhere like Starbucks or shopping at Lowe's because we're working on our house all the time. Just going places regularly and creating those purposeful contacts with people over and over again, getting to know them, starting with surface level questions like, what are you doing this weekend? And then when they ask you what you're going to do, you can say, I'm going to church. I go to Bethesda Baptist Church. I love it there. Do you have a church that you go to frequently? And then being able to go even further and sharing the gospel and what Jesus Christ means to you. I find those very helpful.
So recently I was at an appointment and the lady there helping me out just started asking me different questions, and it started out just questions about my health, about my life, and then it quickly turned into she had questions about her faith and about God. They weren't hard questions. They were just simply questions that I could answer from my heart. And I was able to share the gospel, the good news about Jesus with her just in that short time there. And when follow-up visits, I was able to share even a little bit more. And it doesn't have to be elaborate. It doesn't have to be something that I planned out. God planned it, and I just was able to go with it and share my heart with her.
I always think of it as a full cup. When your cup is full of Jesus and somebody bumps into you, they can't help but spill out onto others. And that's what evangelism is. We try and think about different methods that help us do evangelism, but really it just comes down to knowing Christ to his fullest in your life. And the more you preach and teach Jesus to yourself, the more he's just going to spill out onto other people.
We don't have to cross seas. All we have to do is cross our street to reach people with the gospel.
I'm Pastor Don Jennings.
I'm Pastor Nate Pine.
I'm Pastor Eddie Ferguson.
I'm Pastor John Malagan.
I'm Pastor Brian Wagner. The gospel compels me. Deliver the gospel.